Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am Dungeon Master Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today's video is going to be a continuation of my read-through of Dungeons & Dragons 1974, oftentimes called OD&D for short, which stands for either Original Dungeons & Dragons or Old Dungeons & Dragons. This read-through is part of a challenge that was put up on Twitter, and instead of doing AD&D First Edition, going through the Monster Manual, I decided that I would start right from the beginning. So I will only be focusing on the core concepts and those core rules that really did launch the hobby. It launched the tabletop role-playing game hobby, and although some of these things, some of these key concepts still follow through even to today, others were dropped off along the way, and then new concepts were, of course, included over these last 5 decades. So, without further ado, I'm going to jump right into covering characters, alignment, and NPCs. So here we go, and I am reading directly from my copy of the original, and this is a first printing, so I'm really excited about digging through this as well, for you. So please bear with me. So the last video I covered, the introduction and the scope and the recommendations and preparation for campaigns, and today I'm going to begin with characters. So there are 3 main classes of characters. Fighting men. I'm sorry, I did not give you the trigger warning ahead of time for the term fighting men. So if that upsets you, I do apologize, specifically to Jason Tondro, who seemed to get very upset by the term fighting men. Fighting men, magic users, and clerics. Fighting men includes the characters of elves and dwarves and even hobbits. All right, so fighting men is being used here to not represent a gender, not to represent a race, because fighting men is not exclusive to human fighters. It is being extended to the class role of fighting man, which falls to also elves, dwarves, and even hobbits. And another note, they use the term hobbits in here, in violation of copyright and such with the Lord of the Rings estate. So yes, you will see some of these terms change in the future. Magic users. Magic users include only men and elves. Clerics. Now, men being used here is being used as a replacement for humans. All right. So again, there's not the assumption that men are anything but humans, but not all humans are men. All right, and so that's something that I think is really important, and something that was missed on those who have read this and took offense. And when I say those that read this and took offense, we're talking about really modern day view of the content of this book. So magic users includes only men and elves. Clerics are limited to men only. All non-human players are restricted in some aspect and gifted in others. This will be dealt with in the paragraphs pertaining to each non-human type. Fighting men. All magical weaponry is usable by fighters, and this in itself is a big advantage. In addition, they gain the advantage of more hit dice, the score of which determines how many points of damage you can be taken before the character is killed. They can use only a very limited number of magical items of non-weaponry variety, however, and they can use no spells. Top-level fighters, lords and above, who build castles are considered barons, and as such, they may invest in their holdings in order to increase their income. See investments section, and I'll cover that later on. Base income for a baron is the tax rate of 10 gold pieces per inhabitant of the barony or the game year, for the game year. Magic users. Top-level magic users are perhaps the most powerful characters in the game, but it is a long, hard road to the top. And to begin with, they are weak to survival. So survival is often the question unless fighters protect the low-level magical types. Magic users beck and call, save the arms and armor of the fighters. See, however, elves. So elves is an exception to that. Magic users may arm themselves with daggers only. Wizards and above may manufacture for their own use for sale such items as potions, scrolls, and just about anything else magical. Costs are commensurate with the value of the item, as is the amount of game time required to enchant it. And they go through a chart of scrolls and healing potions and such, which I'm not going to get into. Clerics. Clerics gain some of the advantages from both of the other two classes, fighting men and magic users, in that they have the use of magic armor and all non-edged magic weapons, no arrows. Plus, they have numbers of their own. Spells. In addition, they are able to use more of the magical items than are fighting men. When clerics reach the top level, the patriarch, they may opt to build their own stronghold, and when doing so, receive help from above. Thus, if they spend 100,000 gold pieces in castle construction, they may build a fortress of double that cost. Finally, faithful men will come to such a castle being fanatically loyal, and they will serve at no cost. There will be from 10 to 60 heavy cavalry, 10 to 60 horsed crossbowmen, Turkopole type, and 30 to 180 heavy foot. You can see that a lot of this game system is really built around what is called domain play. High-level characters running strongholds and having huge followings, and that gets into the basis of the wargaming that Dungeons and Dragons came out of. So you can see that strong connection there. Now we have dwarves. Dwarves may opt only for the fighting class, and they may never progress beyond the 6th level, a Myrmidon. Their advantages are they have a high level of magical resistance, and they thus add 4 levels when rolling saving throws. A 6th level dwarf equals a 10th level human. They are the only characters able to fully employ the +3 magic warhammer explained in Volume 2. They note slanting passages, traps, shifting walls, and new construction in underground settings. They are able to speak the languages of gnomes, kobolds, and goblins, in addition to the usual tongues found in the languages list in this volume. Elves can begin as either fighting men or magic users and freely switch class whenever they choose. From adventurer to adventure, but not during the course of a single game. Thus, they can gain the benefits of both classes and may use both weaponry and spells. They may use magic armor and still act as magic users. However, they may not progress beyond the 4th level fighting man or hero, nor the 8th level magic user or warlock. Elves are more able to note secret and hidden doors. They also gain the advantages noted in the chainmail rules when fighting certain fantastic creatures. Finally, elves are able to speak the languages of orcs, hobgoblins, and gnolls, in addition to their own elvish and the other usual tongues. Halflings, should any player wish to be one, he will be limited to the fighting man class as a halfling. Halflings cannot progress beyond the 4th level hero, but they will have magic resistance equal to dwarves. Add 4 levels for saving throws, and they will have deadly accuracy with missiles as detailed in Chainmail. So some of the game mechanics, you need to have Chainmail to apply to this as well. So once again, it's so connected to its wargaming roots that you really do require both, at this time. And notice that they said halflings here in the listing here rather than hobbits, so that's a kind of like an inconsistent usage of the terms. Other character types, there is no reason that players cannot be allowed to play as virtually anything provided they begin relatively weak and work up to the top. A player wishing to be a dragon would have to begin as, let us say, a young one and progress upwards in the usual manner, steps being predetermined by the campaign referee. Not called the dungeon master yet, they're called referees in this. Character alignment, including various monster creatures. So there are only 3 alignments in OD&D. There is law, there is neutrality, and there is chaos. Men can be any of the 3. Halflings are only law. Going on, patriarchs are under law. Those are high-level clerics, so interesting. Let's see, Trents are under law. Unicorns, Pegasi, Hippogriffs, elves can be either law or neutral, but not chaos. Lycanthropes can be all 3. Rocks are law and neutrality. Oh yes, rocks is in both. Dwarves and gnomes are in just law and neutrality. Centaurs are law and neutrality. Under neutrality, you can have, and I'll just go through men's, nixies, pixies, dryads, griffins, animals, elves, rocks, dwarves, and gnomes. Lycanthropes, orcs were originally listed under neutrality and chaos. So the only thing that they could not be was lawful. And that's going to change with AD&D 1st edition when they become lawful evil in that edition. Then you have ogres, which can also be either neutral or chaos. You have dragons, which can be neutral or chaos. Wyverns, centaurs can be either lawful or neutral. Hydra, purely neutral. Purple worms, sea monsters. Chimera, neutral or chaotic. Minotaurs and giants, neutral or chaotic. Under chaos, strictly chaos, you have evil priests, goblins and kobolds, hobgoblins and gnolls, trolls, wights, ghouls, wraiths, mummies, specters, vampires, medusa, manticores, gargoyles, gorgons. All right, so, and there you have it. You have a very simple listing of all of them. You can see some of the art here as well, so I'll So that is a gnome up top. And I believe these hand drawings are from Dave Arneson. Um, Changing character classes, while changing class for other than elves is not recommended, the following rules should be applied. In order for men to change class, they must have a score of 16 or better in their prime requisite of the class they wish to change to, and this score must be unmodified. A cleric with a strength of 15, for example, could not become a fighting man. In any event, magic users cannot become clerics and vice versa. Determination of abilities. So you are going to roll 3d6, all right, for your ability scores. And the ability scores are strength, intelligence, wisdom, constitution, dexterity, and charisma. Each player notes his appropriate score, obtains a similar roll for 3 dice to determine the number of gold pieces. And so here we have an example character. His name is Larthan. Strength of 6, intelligence of 11, wisdom of 13, constitution of 12, dexterity of 9, and a charisma of 8. He is a magic user. And the reason why he's probably a magic user and not a cleric, even though his wisdom was higher with a 13, is his charisma is terrible. His charisma is an 8. And that 8 charisma, although it's average, it falls within the average. So that's, yeah, without any minuses, let's see. Yeah, it's average. They don't have the same points modifiers as later editions of Dungeons and Dragons either. Then there's an explanation of the abilities. I'm not going to get into that because you're probably very familiar with what strength and intelligence and wisdom and constitution, dexterity and charisma are. Moving on, we have charisma is a combination of appearance, personality, and so forth. Its primarily function is to determine how many hirelings of unusual nature a character can attract. This is not to say that he cannot hire men-at-arms and employ mercenaries, but the charisma function will affect loyalty of even these men. Players will, in all probability, seek to hire fighting men, magic users, or clerics in order to strengthen their roles in the campaign. A player character can employ only as many indicated by his charisma score. So this particular character with an 8 charisma can only employ a maximum of 3 hirelings, and they have no loyalty basis for it. All right, so no benefit or detriment. If they had a much lower, they would have a -1 or a -2 loyalty base. If they had an 18 maximum, they would be able to have 12 unusual hirelings and a +4 loyalty basis for them. And it goes through some of the game mechanics of that as well. So languages, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but there is a common tongue spoken throughout the continent, is known by most humans. All other creatures and monsters which can speak have their own language, although 20% also know the common one. So not very much a high chance of like your typical, like say, orc knowing common language. So that's kind of interesting. Going on, characters with a charisma of 10 above may learn additional languages. 1 language for every point above 10. All right, so that's quite a lot of additional languages that they can learn for highly intelligent characters. Non-player characters. In all probability, the referee will find it beneficial to allow participants in the campaign to hire into service 1 or more characters. So at times, This may be nothing more than a band of mercenaries hired to participate in and share the profits from some adventure. However, it is likely that players will be desirous of acquiring a regular entourage of various character types, monsters, and an army of some form. Non-player characters can be hired as followed. Only the lowest level of character types can be hired. The player wishes to hire a non-player character advertises by posting notices at inns and taverns, frequent public places, seeking the desired hireling, or sends messengers to whatever place the desired character type would be found, elfland, dwarflands, etc. The costs money and takes time. This costs money and takes time, and the referee must determine expenditures. Once some responses have been obtained, the player must make an offer to tempt the desired character type into service. As a rule of thumb, the minimum offer of 100 gold pieces would be required to tempt a human into service. Dwarves are more interested in gold. Magic users and elves desire magic items, and clerics want some assurance of having their place of worship in which to house themselves. Monsters can be lured into service if they are of the same basic alignment as the player character, or they can be charmed and thus ordered to serve. Note, however, that the term monster includes men found in dungeons, so this way some high-level characters can be brought into character service, charisma allowing or through a charm spell. Some reward must be offered to a monster in order to induce it into service, and so on. So again, a very big encouragement taking place here in each player character developing a cadre of hirelings to support them in some way. Loyalty of non-player characters, I won't go into that, but their loyalty score goes from basically 3 to 18 on a normal, although 19 is listed. 19 and above is also listed. And there are morale dice that are rolled in order to test their morale. Let's see. You roll 3d6 to test their morale. And then you can have either minuses or pluses to that. And let's see. Relatives, the referee may allow players to designate one relative of his character to inherit his possessions, although they have to pay a 10% tax on all goods and monies received in there. So really, again, getting back to that domain play, very, very interesting. And then we're going to go into basic equipment and costs, which comes later on. So as you can see here, the rules in some cases are dependent on chainmail for some of the rule mechanics that are concerned, but conceptually what you should be taking away from here, or at least I hope that's what you're taking away from here, is that it really is geared more towards each player character building around him or her a group of hirelings that are going to support them moving forward. And those hirelings can be what I would call expert hirelings. Like, let's say, if you're a fighting man and you're in a party with a magic user and a cleric, you might want to have additional, and let's say you're all humans. You might want to hire a dwarf for their advantages, hire an elf for their advantages, and thus you would have a more fuller, more capable party, and each individual player character can do the same as well. So hiring additional men-at-arms and such. And so you start expanding the size of these parties because at its very roots, it's a war game. So they may actually be challenging numbers that are much larger than their own. And so that's where they need these additional members of their adventure party, to call it that as well. So once again, I hope you're enjoying this this series and this read through. And I will be connecting to obviously the other volumes of this book as well. There's still some other sections in here that I will be covering. And then I will go over to Chainmail, my copy of Chainmail, and just hone in on those particular points that are in there as well, that are related to what this was calling for. And then I will then very, very briefly go over the supplements that go along with this. There are 4 supplements that follow the first 3 core books here, plus Chainmail. So again, I hope you're enjoying these videos, and please remember to to subscribe and like them, and comment in the comment sections. Let me just switch views over to here and get you back to the front page here. Again, I hope you're enjoying these. Please feel free to comment. And as always, I look forward to seeing you on a gaming screen or at a convention sometime soon. Tomorrow is going to be a big, big day for live streams. So I have a live stream going live at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, and then another one at 8:15 p.m. Obviously in the evening. So 2 big live streams going on. I've spoken about them a number of times, so be on the lookout. If you subscribe now, based on this video, you'll get the alerts for when those live streams actually go live, and hopefully you'll be able to pop in on those. They're going to be great interviews, and I'm really excited about doing those. So you all have a great rest of your day. Take care.